Hey, it's Nikki, and today's episode is a special series called In the Loop, Communicating for Maximum Leadership Impact with my friends from Borshoff. I am a huge fan of the work Borshoff does to advance internal communication, and so happy that they have joined Gut Plus Science for a special series. Get ready for internal communication inspiration. There's so many nuggets of wisdom here.
Hey, it's Katherine Coble, your host for a very special Gut Plus Science series called In the Loop, Communicating for Maximum Leadership Impact. Our big goal is to help leaders become better communicators, because communication is your best tool for leading well. Let's go ahead and dive into this month's topic. When I was a kid, I had a bike that I loved to ride everywhere. It was a bright turquoise blue, and it had a white banana seat on it. I got really good at riding that bike, but when I first got it, I had to learn how to ease into the braking. There was this one time early on that I got going kind of fast, and it scared me a bit. I forgot that to brake, I just needed to gently push backward on the pedals. Instead, I panicked and I jumped off the bike, fell, scraped myself up, and just scared myself worse than anything. Now, if I had just calmly remembered to reverse the direction of my pedaling, slowly, surely, I would have been able to slow it down and turn in the direction I wanted to go and stay upright. Sometimes when we're faced with a difficult decision, difficult situation as leaders, we tend to panic a bit too. And we move quickly and kind of erratically, kind of like I did that day on my bike. But if we remember how to slow things down, we'll have a much better chance of staying in control and being able to change directions without hurting ourselves or others in the process. I think the current state of today's world is a lot like riding that bike. Today, we're living in turbulent times. Politicians are upending the way private businesses and nonprofits really think about and value things like diversity, equity, and inclusion. Tariffs, or the threat of tariffs, are leaving companies scrambling to find different ways of working. And major restructuring of these federal agencies and their funding are really leaving more questions than they are answers. Today, I don't want to talk about politics, but I do think that leaders would be a bit naive if they didn't think about how this turmoil is impacting their employees. Many leaders are adjusting their policies or programs in response to what the government is doing. Bloomberg is reporting that about 20% of the S&P 500 companies are scaling back their DEI efforts, and a lot more are likely to do so under the growing pressure of the government. Now, this is all over the news right now, but what's missing is the employee perspective. How do employees feel about this rollback? Well, we already know that Gallup's latest study on employee engagement says that it's at a 10-year low. All of this shifting and reaction that companies are doing can be pretty disorienting for employees, and they're really just trying to understand what the company values and where they fit into the company's purpose. Now, more than ever, employees are looking to their leaders. They're looking to their CEOs, their frontline supervisors. And they're asking the question, where are we going and what do we value? Today, I want to share some thoughts with you on how you can communicate with your employees during these turbulent times. It's hard to know what to say when you don't really have all the answers. When public policy is changing daily and political winds continue to be blowing all around, a lot of times when that happens, leaders just hunker down. Now, as leaders, we like to think that we're in control. We want to feel in control. We like to have all the answers. We want to appear competent and knowledgeable, but that's just not reality right now. Many times we don't have all the answers. We don't feel in control. But even when there's uncertainty, we can lead. We can communicate in ways that reassure our employees and really reinforce our values. And that's really why it's important to keep on communicating. But are we setting ourselves up for a misstep or a failure? Well, I think the answer is no. In fact, it's really critical that we keep communicating in difficult times. When leaders clam up, employees start to worry. A vacuum is always filled. If you aren't talking about what's going on, someone else is. The chances for misinformation and distraction and negativity are just rampant. Don't let someone else fill the void. Now, another reason it's important to keep communicating in difficult times is to keep everyone connected. With all the turmoil around changing policies and legal action and funding attacks, we've got to give everyone in our organization a sense of belonging and a connection to our organization's purpose. Last, but certainly not least, I mean, you are running a company, right? It's productivity. If you are not communicating during difficult times, employees can get distracted, and that can be to the point of lost productivity. Now, assuming everyone is going about business as usual is really a dangerous assumption. Don't leave it to chance. Communicate and keep productivity going. So, if those are the dangers of staying quiet in difficult times, how should you approach your communications, especially when you don't really have all the answers, when things might be just kind of difficult to address? Well, over the years, I've counseled many leaders and I've watched many of them handle difficult situations really well and some not so well. I've seen over and over that really three guiding principles tend to come up for the best leaders. And this is what they do during difficult times to keep their communication going. So I'd like to break down those three principles with you today. They are focus, frequency, and forward progress. Now let's start with focus. I'll start with this one with a story. A number of years ago, I went to Hawaii to visit my sister. Her husband was in the military and they were stationed there, so of course I had to go visit. Now, while we were there, we wanted to do all the fun things that we could, and one of the things that we lined up was shark cage diving. Now, before you get overly impressed and think I'm some sort of an extreme adventure seeker, please understand that this was not as dangerous as it might sound. And in fact, my 8-year-old niece went and participated with us. So now, seeing some hammerhead sharks and some sand sharks up close was really thrilling. It truly was. We had a great time. But the part of the story that I really want to tell you about was the time that we spent in the boat. After we got out and we had our adventure, it was time to get ready to return to the island. Well, the boat was rocking up and down and the water was getting a little rough. I started to feel a little sick. I was getting really dizzy and I could hardly stand up in the boat. Then I knew it was coming. I leaned over the side of the boat and I hurled. I'm sure my fellow passengers were just thrilled by that. But once I got over that and I sat down on the boat, the captain actually came over to me to check on me. He told me something that I thought was really helpful. He said, find the horizon and focus your attention on that. Stop looking at the waves that are tossing in front of you and really focus further out. And when you do that, you can start to really stabilize those forces that cause seasickness. So I did it, and it actually made all the difference. Well, that and the throwing up part, but you know what I mean. So what does all this have to do with communicating in difficult times? Well, just like that choppy water that I experienced, external circumstances can sometimes throw off your balance. But when you fix your eyes on what is steady and unmoving, you can get your balance back. And your values should be that unchanging, unmoving horizon for your organization. Now, I saw a CEO who did this really well recently. There's a viral video going around of Marriott CEO Tony Capuano, and he was speaking at the Fortune magazine Great Place to Work Summit. Now, Marriott was recently ranked number 8 on the Fortune list of 100 best companies to work for, and they've actually been on this list for many, many years. Now, in this video, Capuano says that the day the executive order that was limiting DEI policies and programs came out, he knew that there would be questions and concerns from his leadership team and really the entire Marriott employee base. He said he asked his leadership team to think about it and that they would discuss it in further detail, But he had to head at that moment on to this conference, and he wasn't able to really dig into the issue right at that moment. Well, while he was at the conference, of course, he was asked his stance on the orders. And though he really hadn't had the benefit of discussion with his team, he just thought about what he'd learned from Bill Marriott over the years and the history of the company. And that's what he drew on before he answered. Then he said, even though political winds shift over time, there are some fundamental truths that have guided Marriott over its almost 100-year history. And that is, we welcome everyone to our properties and we create opportunities for all. And those things weren't going to change. Well, after he made this public statement, he said he received tens of thousands of emails from employees who were thanking him for making the statement. This is just one example of how employees are watching and waiting for leaders to reinforce what a company stands for and to make their values mean something. If you watch the video, you get the sense that Capuano was not stressed about this statement. He didn't have to spend a huge amount of time debating the merits of pushing back on the federal order. In fact, he didn't even really push back on it. He just went back to the foundational principles that his company was created on, and he just stayed true to that. And it actually looked pretty effortless. The second principle that can help leaders communicate during difficult times is frequency. Now, this principle actually helps in a couple of different ways. When we talk about frequency, we're really talking about repetition of a message. But we're also talking about the commonness of a message. And what do I mean by that? Well, human beings are creatures of habit. We like routine. We like repetition. We like the known versus the unknown. When leaders build regular habits of communicating consistently over time, employees pick up on that rhythm, and that can be pretty comforting to them. It signals that things are in order. We also know that repetition is one of the key ingredients to any good communication. People need to hear a message multiple times in multiple ways over time. Now, just about the time you as a leader are sick of saying it is about the time that employees start to really hear it, believe it, and apply it. You really can never repeat things too often. Frequency matters, especially when things are uncertain and outside forces are making an impact on your business. Help your employees remember where you're going, what you stand for, and how they can keep things on track. This is your primary job as a leader during uncertain times. Now, let's turn our attention to the third and final principle that will help you stay on track when things get a little choppy. This one actually combines beautifully with the first two, and that is forward progress. A forward progress is about staying focused on the future, not letting people wallow in what's done, but focus on what can be done. Of course, there's value in taking the time to reflect and to learn from the past, but we can't stay there. Leaders who consistently focus their communication on where the organization is going and what we're striving for will keep their teams moving toward progress. Now, those of you who know me know that I took up distance running about 15 years ago. And this principle is actually an important one if you're trying to do something hard that takes a long time, like running a marathon. Now, when you train for a marathon, you can easily fall into the trap of focusing on what's right in front of you, especially when it's bad. And when I trained for my first marathon, I quickly learned that I had to talk to myself constantly and not to focus on the hard thing that was in front of me. I'd acknowledge the current challenge, saying things to myself like, "Ooh, it's getting hot out here. I'm getting thirsty. Mile 12 feels really long," things like that. But I knew that if I was going to get to the finish line, I had to pivot my thinking beyond the current mile. Now, that doesn't mean that I only thought of the finish line. That isn't always the most helpful thing either. But I would give myself some sort of a mantra or just some sort of little cheer that would keep me out of my own head and keep me from derailing my plans. So I started saying things to myself like, you got this, you're running strong, keep it up, or suck it up. Now, I'm not recommending that in hard times you tell your employees to suck it up. That would probably not go over very well. But I am saying that you have to keep people focused on what's to come. You have to keep reminding them that they can do this, that forward progress really is what we're striving for, and that we won't let difficult times derail us. Something else to keep in mind. Another way that you can connect to this principle of forward progress is through a trusted advisor or a coach. Side note here, if you don't have a business coach as a leader, you need to get one. Even if you've been a leader for a long time, an outside perspective can change your game significantly. Think about it. Even the best players in the world have coaches. Tiger Woods had a coach. Steph Curry has a coach. A coach's role is multifaceted, but the part that is going to help you see things that you're missing is the part that can really help. When it comes to forward progress, sometimes a good coach can help you see what you have accomplished so that you can see the way forward to even more incremental progress. Lean into people like this in your life, and if you don't have them, find them. Outside perspectives can help you get to the next level. So, let's bring it back to where we started. The world is a busy, changing, chaotic place. Government mandates and executive orders, tariffs, cost cutting, all of it is throwing our economy into a tizzy. And the stock market is riding the waves like a lost surfer. Now, all of this has the potential to throw off your game, to blow up your business plan, to create confusion, distraction, and even fear in your organization. But you have the power. You have more power than you think. As a leader, you are the captain of the ship. Now, you can't control the wind and the waves, but you can keep your eyes on the horizon. You can be transparent, but also inspiring to your team. They look to you for the guidance they need to stay focused in making forward progress. Don't stop communicating when things get hard. In fact, step on the gas, communicate even more. It's your most effective tool when times get tough. Keep your employees in the loop, and you'll maximize your impact no matter what the world throws at you. Thanks for listening.
We just left the world a little bit better. Now, go do something with it.